Let me quickly get a legal point of view on this matter from Mr. Nwachukwu. It's permissible, yes, for executive. That's what the law says. But for the lawmakers, what kind of immunity do they enjoy? And if this is coming up at this time, what is the possibility that the Constitution can be altered or reviewed in that sense?
Well, the first part of your question, the lawmakers do not enjoy under the Constitution the kind of immunity that is available to members of the executive. In fact, there is no mention of legislative immunity in the Constitution. But we have, by law, the Legislative House's Privileges Act that define the immunities of lawmakers acting within the precincts of the Houses of Assembly and National Assembly doing their work. Basically, the immunity is granted for comments, speeches, made on the floor of the Legislative House. It doesn't really go beyond that. It doesn't cover beating people up inside of the chambers. And then there is also the immunity against civil process. You cannot serve civil process within the precincts of the Legislative House. But it doesn't cover criminal process. It's only civil process.
So if anybody commits any criminal act within the National Assembly, it could actually be prosecuted.
Yes, it doesn't cover, it doesn't mention. It's specific on civil process.
So maybe that's the reason why we have seen the alleged forgery case going on right now.
No, that's quite different.
No, isn't that a criminal case?
Yeah.
Or is it a civil case?
No, it's criminal. But we're talking about whether you could come to the precincts of the Legislative House to arrest a member, a lawmaker.
As long as they are within the chamber, you cannot arrest.
That is, you cannot serve civil process on that.
Okay.
But it does not talk about criminal process. But that does not mean that, by convention, we don't really see criminal process being executed, within the presence of the legislative houses. But that basically is the scope of immunity. But there are many other things that go into that. The legislative houses are given the right to investigate offenses within, in the process of lawmaking. So within that also, you may find out that the courts would want to give them space to handle issues that arise on the floor of the legislative house. Whether they fight or whatever, those things have got to do with their rules and what have you. The law is wide enough to give them that space to deal with such issues.
Okay, interesting. Let me quickly show our viewers a section of the Nigerian Constitution, section 308 of the Nigerian Constitution, which basically talks about what cover the executive gets and the restriction on legal proceedings. And one of the things that really caught my attention at some point, probably we go to the subsection C, is no process of any court requiring or compelling the appearance of a person to whom this section applies shall be applied for issued, provided that in ascertaining whether any period of limitation has expired for the purposes of any proceeding against a person to whom this section applies, no account shall be taken of his period of office. And one of the things that one is wondering is the case, the alleged forgery case in the National Assembly, which has generated a lot of controversy. And I guess this is one of the reasons why some of the lawmakers are bringing this up. That this is somewhat a distraction to us.
Yes, I believe that the unwarranted interference of the executive in the affairs of the legislature is exactly what has affected, what is propelling the members of the National Assembly to try and protect themselves. The climate in the country now is that of the executive, running rampant, and nobody is safe. So there is that climate of lack of security for the lawmakers. So when people are talking about context, that things are tough and you shouldn't be talking about immunity, they forget also the political climate in which these legislatures are operating. Nobody has ever had it so bad. 16 years of democracy, we've never seen anything like this.
In terms of the relationship between the executive
the executive does not understand what the legislative arm of government is about.
Okay, let me quickly.
He doesn't understand that. And if I want to talk about that, a little about that forgery case, without delving into whether anybody committed forgery or not. If you really look at that Legislative Houses Privileges Act, and if you understood the philosophy behind the Legislative House and basic principles of law, you understand that it's unthinkable that you could be charging leaders of a Legislative House with forging standing rules of that House. The rules by which the House operates up to now.
If it was really forged, isn't that an offense to be charged for?
You can't forge it. Who is going to talk about forgery? Well, who is qualified? The people you're charging are the only people that can authenticate anything that has to do with the House.
Came from some of the lawmakers.
They have no powers to make that kind of petition.
Okay, let me quickly bring in Mr. Etok here now. The Attorney General of the Federation has been summoned to come and explain why on earth he will be prosecuting principal officers, and they have told him that you did not appear the other time that we called you. This time around, if you do not appear, you stand the risk of having a warrant of arrest over you. Okay, you stand to be arrested if you do not appear. That is what is on the ground. What do you make of it? Do you think the executive is interfering in the legislative business?
I'll tell you, a lot of times when I see things happening, I'm concerned because we all know what is going on. And for the sake of the future in this country, I want to appeal to all political parties to go back and look at their constitutions. The constitution of the party is so important, absolutely necessary, even in resolving the conflicts that we are seeing today. What's going on is just a battle between the silos. And again, being the leader of a national political party, I need to be careful to treat other parties with a certain level of respect. But be that as it may, we all know that it's a power struggle between the silos. And you see, there's a book, Leadership for a Fractured World, by Professor Dean Williams. If we go and look at it, systems should be able to have inbuilt mechanisms that will be able to resolve the conflicts that will necessarily arise.